What is going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes are back talking to one of our favorites here on Junkie Radio. He's the captain of the Extreme Couture team. Been doing this for a minute. He battles Gregory Rodrigues in his next fight. It's coming up at UFC 283 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. What's up, Brad? How are you?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure. You're a couple weeks out, you were telling us, and this is the part where you push the body its furthest, right? Because the last few weeks you kind of taper down, concentrate on the weight. So I imagine right now you're getting pushed.
For me, I would say, yeah, the last 2 weeks is like just push yourself to see, like, like it gives you that, it's that measuring stick of where am I physically and cardio wise, So these last 2 weeks are always like a grind for me. And towards the tail end of next week, things will start slowing down and tapering as I start approaching the week out from the fight. So right now is full bore. We're hitting everything hard, um, doing everything that we should be doing. But yeah, camp's been going well. Weight's good, so I got no complaints.
Brad, let me ask you a question that might be a little difficult to take right off the bat here, but
Yep.
if you look back at a couple of opponents, I'm gonna talk about a win and I'll talk about a loss. Antonio Carlos Jr., you kind of send him packing. You beat him, then he goes to PFL, has a great season, gets that $1 million check. I'm sure
Yep.
you watch that and think, wow, good for him, probably. I mean, nobody's trying to hate on anyone else's career, but still, just good fortune, right? And then a guy, Dricus Duplessis, who you were very competitive with in his fight, and since then he's already had one other one and defeated, Darren Till on a
Yep.
high platform. Do you do those sit with you? Those moments, just knowing, obviously you want to be cashing those big checks and winning those fights and progressing forward. So do you carry that with you, or are you able to compartmentalize fight to fight?
You know what? I don't dwell on those type of things. I'm happy for Shoeface. I cracked a joke with him. He came over to Couture's to train with us, and first thing I saw him, I was like, "Hey, buddy, where's my commission? I'll take
Mhm.
my 10% now." And then almost happened with Omari too. I fought Omari.
Yeah,
Omari went over to the PFL and made it to the finals. So I'm happy for those guys though. That's the path that they were put on. That's their journey, and that's where it led them. And
yeah,
this is where it leads me. As far as Dreykus goes, that was one of those fights. Like after the first round, I was like, dude, I seen everything that he has to offer. I felt his strength, both his like physical strength on trying to wrestle and his punching power. I seen his speed, everything that he had, and I felt like I had an answer for it. And it came out in that second round. And it's the fight game. He did what he needed to do. Ultimately ended up opening a cut above my eye that really messed with my vision. Again, no excuses. These are not excuses from me. This is the fight game, and these things happen in fights. And that's the type of things that you train for, and on both sides. But yeah, he cut open that he got that cut on my eye, which started affecting my vision. And then the thing that was like the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, was hit me with a knee that ended up breaking my nose, and then that just shut my breathing down. And I feel like my cardio just like took a big hit. But got through the fight. He got his hand raised. Congrats to him. I got nothing bad to say about the guy.
mhm.
But yeah, it's one of those things. Like again, I dominated him in that first round. And it's not like he came back to dominate me. Like some things happen. Again, no excuses. That's a fight game. These things happen. But I know that's a fight that if I do get it back, I know exactly how that fight will go. I know exactly the things that I need to do to make sure what led to him winning that fight does not happen again. So yeah, it's not something that bothers me. Like I said, everybody's journey is different. I've been doing this a long time, and I learned that a long time ago. You got guys that come in like a John Jones or a Khabib, and they're one-offs. That's their journey. And you got a guy like Michael Bisping, been at the top almost his whole career, and finally captures that belt towards the end of it. So everybody's journey is different.
Yeah, no doubt. And then you're right. I forgot about Omari. Also, kind of in the same realm that we spoke about. And guess what? Now you have a chance to derail Gregory Rodrigues. He's got some hype. He's got a streak. You're going into his home country. How good does that feel? All the pressure of Vegas. I know you're close to your daughter. I think we may have almost seen her here a second ago. Somebody was
Yeah,
up
she
close to
tried to
popping it.
pop in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but now you're a road game, so I don't know. I don't know if family's traveling with you or if this is a business trip or what.
nah,
But
business trip, business
how
trip.
does how
Just the
does it
boys.
feel to know that now there's a different type of setting and there's a way where you can take him out and get back to progressing like you were.
You know what? I was like, hold on, Daddy's doing something. So at the end of the day, a fight's a fight, and for me, I don't really look into what he got going on and what streak he's on and all of that. I know one thing about him. He's a tough dude. You see that in his fights. He gets hurt, he gets rocked, whatever it may be. People think they got him, they got the fight won, and no, he puts their lights out. So dangerous, super dangerous guy, super tough guy. As far as going into his home country and fighting him, on his home soil, it's nothing new to me. Previously in my career, I feel like I went on a streak where I fought everybody in their hometown. I went to Japan and fought Ricky Fukuda. I went to England and fought Tom Watson. Um, I went down to Florida to fight Yo Romero. Granted, he's from Cuba, but that's his new hometown is Florida, so he had a big fan base there. So this is nothing new to me. I've done it before. I'm sure this ain't the first, and I'm sure this won't be the last time. So it's just another fight, different country, different opponent, but just another fight for me.
Hmm. And in a couple of those fights you mentioned, you were definitely successful. So would you say that uh, you thrive on it? You thrive on that situation, and could some of it have to do with um, the setting? I guess.
I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty good about like regardless if it's somewhere like if I'm fighting in Vegas, and this is my hometown and I got the crowd or whatever versus the opposite where I'm going to their hometown and they have the
Yeah.
crowd. Like I'm pretty good at not letting regardless of what way it goes, not letting it get to me. Like at the end of the day, I gotta worry about this huge Brazilian dude who wants to take my head off. So I got my hands full just worrying about my opponent rather than worrying about everything else. One thing I will say though is that I remember when I fought. Oh, it was just recently. I think it was Omari. When I fought Omari, we were just coming out of COVID and the pandemic and the shutdown and all of that. And granted, my fight before that against Shoeface was in front of a smaller crowd out in Abu Dhabi. They allowed like limited attendance. But yeah. So when I fought Omari, I remember walking out there for that weigh-ins and just the crowd, celebrating and just it was a good crowd. I think it was a McGregor card, so it was packed in there, and I
Hmm.
did feed off of that energy, So I do like the energy of having the crowd there, but it doesn't matter to me really who they're cheering for. The energy is the energy. It's there. You can tap into it.
Season 11 is about 12 years old now. And
Going on 13. Well, you know what? No, we actually technically we filmed January of 2010. So we're
yeah.
like 13 years old now.
Oh yeah, 13 years old
Mhm.
now. Exactly. I keep forgetting we're in 2023. Um, I wanted to ask you, how do you feel in terms of probably when you were filming the show, you thought, okay, I got to get better here, get better there. I need to do this, do that, round out my game. Do you feel like you've done that? You're still doing it? Where are you in when we talk about a fighter's prime?
You know what? I've always said this. I feel like when you think that you have nothing left to learn, you will never like at that point you're done. Like I still feel like there's so much more that I can learn and grow and add to my game. I remember being an Ultimate Fighter, and I wasn't even worried about getting better here or sharpening this there. the first thing I was worried about is, okay, I'm gonna have to make weight like every week, which back then I walked around way smaller. It was in the Ultimate Fighter from those guys from that team, that I actually like learned how to cut weight. It wasn't until after the Ultimate Fighter, my first fight against on the finale against Seth, where I really actually like cut solid water weight. Prior to that, it was all dieting and maybe sweating out maybe 5 pounds, if that. But yeah, that was still a concern. I had to make weight pretty much on a weekly basis. And then the other thing was like I didn't know anything. Like it was very apparent to me when I got into the Ultimate Fighter that all of these guys pretty much, maybe not on a personal level, knew each other, but they knew of each other. They were familiar with who this person was, what type of fighter they were, where they're fighting out of, that type of deal. I had no clue who any of these guys were, and to be honest, no, they didn't have a clue who I was. But the only thing that I could think about was I gotta win every fight, and getting to the end, and getting to the UFC. So it wasn't even about like thinking like, oh, I gotta get this better, that better. Now after the fact, I learned along the way. Yeah, you gotta like, okay, I'm a striker. I gotta get my wrestling on point, at least my defensive wrestling, and that type of thing, because everybody's gonna try and take me down. But yeah, I still feel like to this day I'm still learning and growing. I'm still adding things or tweaking things, making them better. And I think when I get to the point where I'm like, you know what, I learned everything, which I don't think I'll ever get to that point. But if I do hit that point sometime soon, I'll know then that all right, I'm done. Like I gotta keep learning, growing, and evolving because that's where the sport is going.
Hey, Brad, so you're a part of a gym that has great fighters, great former fighters and coaches, a wealth of knowledge. But outside of those people, is there anybody in particular that you lean on for advice or pointers? Anybody kind of outside of that fight sphere?
Well, okay, so just outside of our gym, I would say I don't know if he's outside of fight sphere because he's heavily involved, but Ali, my manager Ali, I lean on him a lot. Ask him, his advice, his thoughts, and he's actually, I mean, you guys know this. He's actually very, very intelligent when it comes to the fight game and kind of the way he views things and how he sees it. Maybe it's because he views it as a business or whatever. Um, the only other person would be my best friend, my brother Devin. Um, like he's one person that when fights come up or things come up, I'll always run it by him and ask him. Is that's kind of how I got started in this game. He and I used to go home every day after school and put on boxing gloves that we stole from champs and try to beat the shit out of each other. Um, and it was me beating him up more than he beat me up. But yeah, so like I've always asked his advice and whatnot, and I still do to this day. He's the other guy you always see in my corner alongside Ray and Eric. So yeah, I would say those two people, and then another one, Brandon Wolf. My old coach. Like if it wasn't for that guy, I literally wouldn't be where I am today. So I still always will pick his brain and get his thoughts. And he's such a different thinker. Like so like old school and just thinks of things differently. So I like to get his take on things.
Hey, so Brad, I know you're a gamer, and sometimes, and tell me if you can relate, you'll have an off night gaming, right? Where just things
Yep.
aren't clicking. What's that mentality like? Can you ever compare that to fighting in real life, where you have a bad day in the gym and you try and search for answers? I know in video gaming, you sometimes you'll get as desperate as like YouTube and try and figure out like what am I doing? Can you equate those two frustrations? Are they close at all?
Oh, 100%. I feel like in anything you do, you'll have an off day. Nobody's perfect all the time, and again, I've been doing this for a while now, and to uh, I've learned to know that these off days do come, and it doesn't define where you are. in training or in camp or any of that. No matter what, you could be in the greatest shape, but for whatever reason, whatever you ate or didn't eat enough of, along with, it's like the perfect storm. Maybe I didn't sleep enough, mixed with I didn't get enough recovery here or there, and I didn't get enough nutrition. And at the end of the day, that equation leads to shitty day, shitty training, and that things not going your way. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things where I've been doing this so long that I know that those days come. So when they do come, I kind of just like pull myself back. I remind myself that these days do come, and I shake it off, and I return to training the next day or the next session. Say it's a Tuesday, and it was sparring, and I didn't like how things went. So I'll on Thursday I'll try to Wednesday night, I'll try to make sure I get ample rest. I'll try to make sure that I got everything I needed nutritionally, so that I have no excuses. And then come Thursday, I'll try to fix all those things that I felt like went wrong, or get those rounds back that I felt I lost maybe. Um, and that's kind of how I deal with those things. And I think that it's funny. I just recently, like, hope you don't mind me sharing this, but Puna, a couple weeks ago, he had a day like that, and it just like I could see it. It's really frustrated him. He was like super frustrated. Like he didn't understand why. Like he's like, I'm in great shape, this and that. Like why do I feel so? Like why did I do so like shitty today? Like, or to his standard. And me, Ray, Eric, we kind of just pulled him aside, and like he's young in the fight game, and just told him the things that I just said. Like, bro, I get those days all the time. Like you got to just shake it off, come back stronger. And I believe when I asked him the next day, he did. He got a good night's rest. He ate, and he felt great the next day. And he's like, thanks for like reminding him or telling him of that, so that now going forward he can remind himself that we get these days.
We actually did bring up the middleweight division over at Extreme Couture between yourself, Chris Curtis, Sean Strickland, Puna Soriano, even Edmund Shabazian's come over as of late.
Yep.
I'm probably leaving out one or two more, but I'm sure iron sharpens iron. That's like the epitome of it right there. These are all top guys.
Yeah, yeah. We got, what's funny is that when I first came over, there was a load of guys at XC in all different weight classes, and that only lasted for a little while, and then it was I was like by myself. It was either the next closest guys were 7 years. It was Martin, Jay, and then there was guys bigger than me, Forrest and Vinny, and all these bigger. They're either smaller or bigger. There wasn't a whole lot of 85ers around. And now you come into XC, and I feel like the 85ers are one of the most dominant divisions on the mats. We have a bunch of US, like all the guys you named, Chris Curtis, Sean Strickland, Puna Soriano, Edmund Shabazian's there, Albert is there. Um, and yeah, I'm sure I'm leaving, like you said, I'm sure I'm leaving, excuse me, some people out as well. But we're deep at 85 at Coutures, which I love. It's great. It is iron sharpens iron. We have a great team to push you, different looks, different styles. So it's great. I'm fortunate now.
Yeah. You brought up Brandon Wolf. I think I've mentioned this to you before. I saw him fight in 2006 in Hawaii, and we're in 2023 now. Like that was 17 years ago. I'm wondering if you may have been at the same card as I was, but it had Frank Trigg, Anderson Silva, Yushin Okami, Jake Shields. Do you remember a Rumble on the
Who
Rock tournament with those guys?
I do, I do.
Yeah.
I don't think I was there. I want to say I was still in 2006. I think I might have still been living on the Big Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I hadn't moved to Oahu yet. I moved to Oahu in 2000, like maybe like ending of 2006, early 2007.
Hmm.
No, actually, maybe no, I think I was there in 2006, but I don't think I remember that tournament, but I
Hmm.
don't think I was there for it.
Yeah, it was
But
at
yeah, it was a
the
Rumble on a Rock, and it was a who's who.
yeah, I left out Carlos Condit. He faced Jake
Carlos
Shields in the
Condit. Yep.
final. Jake Shields had to fight two times, 15 minutes each. That's 30 minutes of fighting, which, as you know, the most we see is 25 minutes.
Yep.
But he went the distance with Yushin and with Carlos. He's the one that won the tournament. Anderson had gotten disqualified earlier in the tournament, but in that same card, so Brandon got a nice win. He looked really good. That same card had Cabbage Correa against Butterbean. Butterbean could only be on the floor for 15 seconds, and then Cabbage would have to let him back up. In fact, I
Get back
think
up.
Cabbage Correa may have broken his forearm before the fight started, and they almost canceled it.
Yeah.
But he shook it off or somehow played it off. But I think he had a broken bone in his forearm and came out, still fought. So those were the days, you know what I mean?
Those were the days. Those were the highest of the highs of Hawaii MMA. Like those, I feel like like even though we've had some great fighters out of Hawaii and like like Max, we've had a champion. But still, those were the days. And even Max was around back then. He was like this young kid fighting kickboxing fights. I remember him. I remember him before he even got to the UFC, and he was a kickboxer, and I remember talking to him when I was in the UFC, and he was trying to work his way up. And I remember the fight with Max that really like impressed me. It was when he fought Harris Sarmiento because Harris is a tough dude. It was a 5 round fight. And man, Max like Max looked like Max, like just crazy output, unreal cardio, and he wasn't even as good. He looked great then, but he wasn't even as good as he is now. So it's crazy to think about that.
For sure. Well, listen, I know the family's in the back. Go spend some time with them. Thanks as always for your time here on Junkie Radio. And we definitely look forward to the fight, UFC 283, excuse me. Goes and I will be doing a watch along. So we'll be wearing our emotions on our sleeves. The audience knows we're not always the most objective MMA media members. We love you guys at Extreme Couture. So safe travels, safe weight cut, and do your thing, man, on January 21st.
Thank you. And hey, early on when we first started, you're like, you said something about, oh, I hate to ask this, or I don't know how you worded it, bro. I thought you were gonna start talking shit about the Niners and the Raiders. I was like, oh, here we go. But then it
No,
was about
all of a
fighting.
sudden, one of these days I'm at Extreme Couture and you're gonna ask me if I want to see your truck or something. I'm gonna take a leg trip for my
He's gonna throw
troubles.
dreams at you.
Bro,
You
here,
guys,
I got a funny,
you guys
I got
competed.
a funny story. I got a funny story for you guys. I'm not. You probably never get any fighting stories, like street fighting stories, out of me anymore. Like ever since becoming a father, I got to worry about not being home at night. But so last week Sunday, we go to the Niners game. Um, where this is New Year's Day, or this past Sunday, I should say, right? This is New Year's Day, so everybody's tired. We're up, whatever. I'm not drinking or anything, but everybody else around me is. Uh, so anyway, right before we go into the game, one of our friends that we tailgate with, she goes, "Oh no, I forgot to unlist my tickets, and they just sold for $900 each." Granted, her tickets probably cost her 150 each, so huge markup. So one of my other friends, he goes, let's try sell ours and see what happens. So he listed his, and they're like in the same section. Boom! Instantly, he sells his for 900 each. So I was like, frick, I'll sell my tickets, this and that. So they're asking me, or my girl asked me, she's like, how much would you not go to this game for? I was like, fuck, $1,000 each. I'll watch them on TV. And then so she's like, oh, list it then. She's like, you should list it for 2,000 though. I was like, nah, there's no way this is gonna sell. And granted, mind you, this is 1 p.m. The kickoff is at 1:25. We're trying to make our way into the game from the parking lot. We're in the tailgate. So I listed at first for 1,200. She's like, no, that's crazy. You should list it at least 1,500. I was like, sure, okay. So I listed for 1,500. We're walking in, we get through security. I go to and I'm thinking there's no way in hell. I go to freaking get my tickets out and cancel it. Fucking shit sold. I'm like, no. So I sold for 1,500 each ticket. But
Nice.
then I'm like, instantly my gut, I'm like, no, I wanted to be at this game. So then we spend the whole almost first half outside trying to because a lot of times what happens is once the kickoff starts, the tickets will drop. People they can't go. They just drop their tickets. They'll even take a loss. Like say somebody's season ticket cost to them is like 350. They'll drop it to like 300, 250, whatever. They're just trying to get some money back instead of taking $0 because they're not going to go regardless. So I was
Right.
like, we can count on that. But I'm an idiot. When I was looking at it, I didn't realize the whole stadium was pretty much sold out. Like I probably could have sold my tickets for like $3,000 a piece.
Hmm.
Wow.
Instead, I took a measly 1,500. Feel like a
Hey, it's
loser.
a lot more than your friends did, and you kind of saved yourself that heartache at the end. But look, it was a
Yeah,
great
true
game.
that.
It
It
was a
was.
great game. Both of our teams have young quarterbacks that show some promise. Although Mike, I thought that sucked what happened to Carr, but you know that's a whole other topic.
Oh yeah. Bro, your guys' offense, like I feel like the Niners came out of nowhere. Like you guys' defense was already good, but you guys' offense, dude, is like so explosive, man. Like so much weapons.
Yeah,
Ayuk, Debo, Christian McCaffrey, like Kittle, Juszczyk, like you guys. I mean,
yeah,
sick, man.
they
You guys,
got
your team is good.
they got a squad, but we did have to suffer through two quarterbacks that went down. But anyway,
Two
we should get
bums. I like Brock
together.
Purdy better.
What's that?
I said two bums. I like Brock Purdy better,
Yeah, me too. Like I've been telling
bro.
like I've been telling people, he's pretty good.
Bro, if McDummy picks up Garoppolo, I'm gonna be so mad.
Hey,
I'm
he
gonna be
wins.
so mad.
Believe it or not, he wins. He just can't make it through 16 games or 17 now. But anyway,
Nah, I don't. I rather have Stidham. I rather have Stidham than Garoppolo. You guys keep Garoppolo over there. He could be your guys' third string.
all right, brother. Thanks for the time. We'll talk
All
to you
right,
soon.
guys.
Okay.